I came this close to ripping out every last pepper plant in the garden and writing out the whole crop as a lost cause. Honestly, my hand was practically on them. This was a couple years ago. I'd grown 6 pepper plants from seed, and by the middle of summer, they were pathetic, frankly. Knee high, sure, but barely flower between them, and not a single pepper. Meanwhile, right next door, my tomatoes had gone completely berserk, fruit everywhere, the absolute picture of health. And these peppers just sat there, sulking, doing nothing, mocking me a little, I felt. Yeah, I did what you do. I fussed. Then I read, then I fussed a bit more, fed them, checked them, muttered at them under my breath. Nothing changed. Week after week, the same 6 green lumps, they flatly refusing to do the one job I'd given them. And by about August, I'd more or less given up on them. In my head, they were finished, a failure. I stopped paying them any real attention, and I half decided I'd pull them out the weekend and put in something more grateful for their place in the garden. And then the weather changed. We got this long, late stretch of proper heat, weeks of hot days, warm nights, the kind of spell where you don't even need a jacket once the sun guns down. Once the sun's gone down. I wasn't thinking about the peppers at all. They were dead to me. But one evening, I happened to wander past them, and I stopped, and I looked, and they were absolutely covered in flowers. I actually, I said something out loud that I'm not going to repeat here. Within another week or two, every one of those flowers had set, and suddenly each of those 6 sad little plants were hung with peppers. Proper glossy ones. And it just kept going, right through the first cold snap. I was picking peppers by the basketful off the very plants that I had been about to tear out a month before. It turned into the best pepper harvest I'd ever had by a mile, and almost a whole lot of it came in the last stretch of the season. Standing there, my hands full of peppers that I had written off as dead, the lesson finally landed. It was never the plant's fault. It was my fault. I had been judging the peppers wrong. I'd been judging them by the wrong clock. I expected them to perform like tomatoes on the tomato timetable, and they simply don't work that way. Peppers are slow. They love heat, real lasting heat, more than almost anything else you'll grow. And a lot of our summers just don't get hot enough up here soon enough to suit them. So they wait. They quietly bide their time, and they do most of their real work right at the back end of the season, once the warmth is properly arrived, and decide to stay for a while. What it looked like a total failure was just patience I didn't understand. So now I treat peppers completely differently. I give them the absolute hottest, sunniest, most sheltered spot I've got every single time. A wall that soaks up the sun all day and throws the warmth back at them after dark is just about perfect. And then the big one, I don't panic. I don't write them off in July anymore, because I know now that a pepper plant sitting there doing nothing in the middle of summer is not a failed plant. It's just a plant that hasn't gotten to its part of the story yet. A couple other things I picked up. Once I stopped fighting them and started them off, I start them off early in the year, earlier than you think, because that slow pace means they need every single week of the season that you can give them. Give them somewhere genuinely warm right from the seedling stage. Not just shoved outside in the cool and left to hope for the best. Go easy on the rich leafy feed, because too much of that and you can get like a big bushy green plant and hardly any fruit at all, which looking back was almost certainly part of my problem that first year as well. Warmth, time, and a bit of held nerve. That's the secret of the peppers. So if your peppers are sitting there sulking right now, doing absolutely nothing, sulking the whole summer away, please don't give up on them. Don't pull them out. Give them the warmest spot you can find, leave them to it, and wait. Their best is still to come. With peppers, it nearly always runs late.